I just wanted to thank you for interviewing with me today. My name is Laura, and I'm in the Human Services program at Western, and I need to practice interviewing for my 325 class. So what I wanted to talk to you about today...
It's a pleasure to be here. I'm happy to do this.
Thank you. What I wanted to talk to you about today is I know that you were in the human services field working with, was it DCFS or were you private contracted?
I was private contracted through Whatcom County.
Okay.
I have done an internship with DCFS when I was in college.
Okay, but you worked as a guardian ad litem.
Yes,
but
for foster children.
Okay. What originally made you choose that career field?
Well, when I was doing my internship with DCFS, that was the first time I'd heard of a guardian ad litem and met them. Well, that's not true. I'm sorry. But back up, when I was a foster child, I actually knew I had a guardian ad litem, but I didn't know who they were or what they did or what their role was. It was just a name that appeared on my court orders. When I did my internship with DCFS was the first time I actually met a guardian ad litem and had the opportunity to learn what they actually did. And then I was looking to change my career about 8 years ago, and I applied for an ad in the newspaper that just said that they were looking for somebody who had experience working with youth and that having legal experience would be beneficial or preferred. And so I didn't even know I was applying to be a guardian ad litem.
Well, it didn't specify.
It did not specify, and it was sent to a P.O. box, so you didn't know. And so that's how I got the job, really. And the difference, well, anyways, yeah, that's how.
What were you doing before that?
I was the director of the Oasis Teen Shelter for almost 8 years.
Oh, wow. Okay. So you just kind of get sick of that, or?
I wouldn't call it being sick of it. It's part of it is wanting to always learn, and I think wanting to expand my job skills. I felt like I'd gotten as far as I could in that position. Also, I really, part of the requirement of being the director of Oasis was that if someone didn't show up for a shift, you'd have to work the overnight. And it was really disrupting my sleep patterns, and I wanted to get a more normal sleep cycle.
Yeah, so you just kind of spent 8 years there not getting a regular sleep and decided that you wanted to broaden your experiences within your field?
Yes.
Cool.
Well, and I felt like I said, I think a lot of it was gone as far as I could go.
Yeah.
Was it going to increase my income any further? I did not feel like there was any more I could learn from the position. So.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's cool that you kind of just jumped in without really knowing what you were jumping into.
Well, once I interviewed, that's when I found out.
Oh, okay.
I had decided to look for jobs, and so I just started applying for anything that looked possibly, interesting. And then when when they would call me for interviews, I would do a brief little informational interview with them over the phone to determine if it was something I wanted to apply for, if it was going to meet my salary requirements. That
makes sense. Kind of saves time of traveling out so that you kind of get a feel for what you're going to be doing and decide whether or not you actually want to, put forth the extra effort to meet face to face.
Exactly. Like my current job search, I spoke to somebody and the job sounded very interesting, but then I found out it would have been $10 an hour pay cut. And I went, I'm not really thinking
down $10 from what you make now.
Yes,
that's pretty severe.
It was, and she actually was. And they, when you explain it to people, they tend to respond very positively about your questions because you're trying to save them time as well as you. And it's not an inappropriate question. When you're interviewing, what is the pay scale?
Yeah, I know. I always got the impression that you weren't supposed to talk about that, but I don't really see why because, you don't want to get the job and then realize halfway through, oh, I need more money than this. Sorry, I'm going to quit before I ever start.
Right.
Yeah, that's good. So when you first were getting your degree, did you know what area you wanted to be working in?
I always knew I'd be working in the human services field. As I stated briefly, I was in foster care, and so it really interested me. I felt like there were so many people who'd given to me when I was a teenager that I really wanted to give back, and so I tailored I did the 6-month internship with CPS. I realized then that I never wanted to work for the state. And so I just didn't know exactly what I would be doing, but I knew I would always be working with teenagers. I tend to prefer teenagers. I work with little kids too, but I like working with teenagers more so than little kids.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at, where I know I want to work with like at-risk youth. Just don't know what avenue I'm going to take yet. So that's kind of why I wanted to talk before a little bit about what you do. But do you mind if I write some stuff down?
No, that's fine.
Okay. Yeah. So, do you want to tell me a little bit about any of your experiences in your job, negatives and positives, maybe why you chose not to work with the state?
The problem with working for the state is you're not working with youth. I mean, you are, and you do spend some time working with youth, but a lot of what you're doing is pushing papers. There's been so many lawsuits against the state that there's so much paper. You have to create a huge paper trail to show the services that you're providing, as well as making sure you're getting referrals and funding referrals and gas voucher referrals and daycare referrals. And so your time with the children you're serving is very limited. I've worked with social workers who only spend maybe an hour at most a month with the kid that they're working. Like they go do a home visit and they're there just for a half hour. You're going to spend a lot of time in court. You're going to be spending a lot of time writing reports and, like I said, referrals. I also, in my internship, I met some social workers who were just biding their time till they got their retirement.
Oh my gosh. And
you would see them and they really, it was obvious they really didn't like what they were doing anymore, and they just were these miserable people biding their time because they have 5 more years until I can retire. And it's like, I didn't want to ever become that person. I wanted to be able to do other things. I think that's why, it seems like for me in my jobs, 8 years has been I reach a point where it's like, I want to do something different and experience something new. And I do prefer, I've been an administrator of a program, the Oasis, for example, but I did really enjoy working in the evenings and interacting with the kids. That's where my heart is spending time with the kids and really trying to make a difference in their lives. And yeah, you make a difference in a person's life by pushing papers, but I like to see the actual impact of my actions.
So you like direct service a lot more than indirect service?
Yes. Yeah. And I think that was the nice thing about being a guardian ad litem is there was a better balance of that. Yeah. You were seeing kids in the home, you were seeing them in their group homes, in the school setting. Sometimes you'd participate in counseling appointments. And then the only paperwork I had to do was actually writing my reports to the court. And so it was more of actual contact with the foster parents, the bio parents, building relationships with the families.
Instead of in your office, kind of remembering the details. Yeah, that can seem pretty tiring because you usually get into this line of work wanting to make a difference and you don't feel like you're making a difference when you're sitting in an office.
Right. So it's like grant writers. Well, they're making a difference, but it's a different type of making
You're
a
at the
difference.
very beginning.
Yeah.
And you kind of want to be in the middle or at the end, kind of seeing where your work is taking you and taking them.
Yes.
Cool. Well, I think we'll just wrap it up.
Okay.
Thank you for taking the time to meet with me today.
You're welcome.